Stop scrolling for a second. What if I told you that every grain of sand on every beach, every desert, every coastline on Earth is outnumbered by the stars in the universe? It sounds like one of those dramatic internet quotes, right? The kind people post without checking. But this one is backed by real science. And when you understand the numbers, it doesn't just sound impressive. It becomes almost impossible to wrap your mind around. Let's start with the sand. Scientists have actually tried to estimate how many grains of sand exist on Earth. They measure the average size of a grain of sand, calculate how much sand covers the world's beaches and deserts, and then do the math. A widely cited scientific estimate suggests there are about 7.5 quintillion grains of sand on Earth. That's 7 quintillion, 500 quadrillion. 7.5 billion billion. Already unimaginable. Now here's where things get uncomfortable for your brain. When astronomers look up at the night sky, the stars you see with your naked eye, maybe 5,000 across the entire sky, are just a microscopic fraction of what's actually out there. Our galaxy alone, the Milky Way, contains an estimated 100 to 400 billion stars. And that's just one galaxy. For years, scientists believed there were about 100 to 200 billion galaxies in the observable universe. But newer deep-field observations from the Hubble Space Telescope, and more recently from the James Webb Space Telescope, suggest the number could be much higher. Some estimates now suggest there may be up to 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Even if we take a conservative estimate, say 200 billion galaxies, and assume each contains roughly 100 billion stars, that gives us 26 sextillion stars. That's 26 sextillion. Or written in scientific notation, about 2 times 10 superscript 2 superscript 2 stars. And many estimates place the number even higher, possibly up to 10 superscript 2 stars. Now compare that to 7.5 times 10 superscript 1 grains of sand. Even on the low end, there are thousands of times more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on Earth. Thousands of times more. Let that sink in. Here's the pattern interrupt. You've been standing on beaches your entire life, watching sand slip through your fingers, and you were holding something that is outnumbered by the stars in existence. But wait, someone might say, isn't that exaggerated? We haven't counted every star. You're right, we haven't. These numbers are estimates based on measurable data, galaxy surveys, deep field imaging, cosmic background radiation studies, and models of stellar formation. Astronomers calculate average star counts per galaxy and extrapolate based on observed galaxy density across cosmic volumes. It's not guesswork. It's statistical astronomy. And here's the controversial twist. We're only talking about the observable universe. The observable universe is the portion we can see, limited by the speed of light and the age of the universe, about 13.8 billion years. Light beyond a certain distance simply hasn't had time to reach us yet, which means there could be far more beyond what we can observe, possibly infinitely more. Now pause, because this is where human comprehension starts to crack. You are on a planet with roughly 8 billion people. That feels like a lot. But there are likely more stars in the universe than all the grains of sand on Earth, and more stars than all the cells in your body. In fact, the human body contains around 30 to 40 trillion cells. That sounds massive. Yet even that number is tiny compared to the estimated number of stars. And here's something even more grounding. Many of those stars likely have planets. Data from NASA's Kepler mission suggests that most stars probably host at least one planet. In our Milky Way alone, scientists estimate there could be tens of billions of Earth-sized planets in the habitable zones of their stars. So when someone says, we might not be alone, that's not science fiction optimism. That's statistical reasoning. But let's bring this back to sand. Why does this comparison matter? Because sand feels countless. If you've ever scooped up a handful at the beach and tried to count even a tiny pinch, you realize how quickly counting becomes impossible. Now multiply that by every coastline, roughly 356,000 kilometers of it, plus vast deserts like the Sahara, which alone spans about 9 million square kilometers. And still, it's outnumbered. Here's another pattern interrupt. Every time you look up at the night sky and see what appears to be a quiet, mostly empty darkness, you are actually staring into overwhelming abundance. The darkness isn't empty. It's just far away. The nearest star after our Sun, Proxima Centauri, is about 4.24 light-years away. That's roughly 40 trillion kilometers. The stars look sparse because space is vast, not because stars are rare. In fact, stars are so common that new ones are still forming. In nebulae across galaxies, clouds of gas collapse under gravity and ignite nuclear fusion, creating new stars. At the same time, others explode as supernovae, scattering heavy elements, the very elements that make up planets, oceans, and even you. The iron in your blood was forged in a dying star. That's not poetry. That's astrophysics. So when we compare stars to grains of sand, we're not just talking about numbers. We're talking about scale, about perspective. Every human conflict, every triumph, every civilization in history has unfolded on a planet that is one of billions in a galaxy that is one of potentially trillions, in a universe with more stars than all the grains of sand you could ever walk across. And here's the humbling part. Despite these incomprehensible numbers, we are the species capable of estimating them. Tiny creatures on a small rocky planet, orbiting an average star, in the outer arm of a spiral galaxy, and we figured this out. We built telescopes powerful enough to look billions of years into the past. We measured faint light from galaxies so distant that it began traveling toward us before Earth even formed. That might be the most astonishing fact of all. So yes, based on the best available astronomical data and geological estimates, there are very likely far more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on Earth. Not metaphorically, literally. The next time you're at a beach, pick up a handful of sand and let it fall slowly through your fingers. Each grain represents something that feels uncountable. And yet, the universe said, "Hold my beer." If this expanded your perspective even a little, follow for more mind-bending but scientifically accurate insights about our universe. And tell me in the comments, does knowing there are more stars than grains of sand make you feel small or strangely powerful?